Welcome back to World History. Today we uncover a terrifying mystery that defies science, logic, and perhaps even time itself. It started with a storm unlike any other. Dark clouds rolled in over a peaceful town, casting a strange green hue. Across the sky, thunder growled low, and with every flash of eerie lightning the air seemed to tremble. Then the rain began. At first it looked like any normal downpour. But those who stepped into it knew instantly something was wrong. Panic erupted. Crowds sprinted for shelter, but it was already too late. People froze mid-step, their bodies hardening, their skin turning gray. A scream would escape a mouth, only to be silenced in stone. One woman looked at her hand in horror as it turned rigid before her eyes, her breath catching in her throat. A child stood in the middle of the road, gazing at the sky, innocent and unaware until the stone crept up their face like ivy. Within minutes, an entire street was transformed into a graveyard of statues, people frozen in the very act of running, holding umbrellas or reaching out to loved ones. Scientists rushed to the scene, clad in full hazmat suits, examining what could only be described as living fossils. Beneath the surface of each statue, strange mineral veins pulsed, unnatural and unexplained. Some statues were cracked from the transformation, mouths frozen in agony as the rain continued to fall mercilessly. From above, drones captured haunting footage. Villages half turned to stone, fields scattered with animals petrified mid-run. And under the microscope, a single drop of rain revealed its chilling truth: crystalline particles that didn't belong on this earth. Within days, the rain had moved from isolated towns to major cities, leaving governments scrambling and entire populations paralyzed literally. Quarantine zones were established and military forces rolled in with tanks and weapons, not to fight an enemy they could see, but to contain a threat they couldn't understand. Roads were blocked, hazmat units were deployed, and cities were sealed behind barricades. Inside these zones, what had once been thriving urban life had now become silent stone cemeteries. Men, women, and children frozen in the middle of their final moments. Inside one apartment, a woman watched in horror as the rain lashed against her window. Just beyond the glass, people she knew, her neighbors, friends, maybe even her family, stood as motionless statues, their faces twisted in fear. The rain never stopped. Every drop that hit the earth spread the plague. Scientists now believe this was not just a natural event. Under powerful microscopes, they discovered something shocking. The molecular structure of the rain contained alien-like elements, metallic crystals that defied classification. This wasn't rain from Earth, something somewhere had sent it. As the world watched helplessly, news broadcasts played haunting images, entire cities collapsing into silence as the petrifying rain advanced. High-tech laboratories around the globe worked around the clock, analyzing samples, running simulations, and searching for a cure or at least an answer, but time was running out. One aerial view showed the horror more clearly than any report. Could a massive city split in two? On one side, normal life. On the other, a world locked in stone, frozen mid-motion. In parks once filled with laughter, statues now stood where dogs once played. A small petrified puppy remained leashed to a bench surrounded by birds that had been frozen mid-flight. The transformation was swift and selective, sometimes random. Scientists now believe the rain reacted to motion, to thought, maybe even to emotion. Lightning strikes no longer brought fire, but waves of stone, spreading from impact zones like shock waves through the earth. In the archives of a remote monastery, a discovery added another chilling layer to the mystery. An ancient scroll, centuries old, described a prophecy, a skyborne curse, a heaven's flood that would turn the arrogant and unworthy to stone. The handwriting was crude, the paper brittle, but the message was terrifyingly clear. This had happened before, yet in the shadows of ruin there were signs of resilience. A lone child, clutching a brightly colored umbrella, dashed through a field of frozen figures, dodging what others could not. How they survived, no one knew. But where there is fear, there is also hope. As the storm grew, one truth echoed louder than ever: this was not just a weather phenomenon. It was a message, a test, or perhaps a punishment, and the world had yet to understand the full extent of the nightmare falling from the sky. Inside a forgotten hospital on the outskirts of a major city, silence reigned. Beds lay in chaos, IVs still dripping, and scattered belongings told of sudden panic. But the most haunting sight was the patients half-transformed, caught in the agonizing limbo between flesh and stone. Their faces contorted in fear, their bodies fractured where the stone had begun its cruel invasion. Some were still conscious when it happened. A single tear, frozen mid-fall, now a glistening crystal on the cheek of a woman who could feel her humanity slipping away. The rain was no longer local. From the skies above, satellite images told the story no one wanted to believe: outbreaks of the stone rain were appearing on every continent. Africa, South America, Europe, Asia. The petrification was spreading systematically like a plague with a pattern. Cities vanished overnight. Forests became graveyards of wildlife. Oceans glowed eerily under moonlight as the rain touched their surface. And still, no one could explain it. At night, the rain shimmered with an unnatural light, as if it carried something more than water, something watching. In every corner of the world, statues replaced families, lovers, neighbors. In the chaos, hope found refuge underground. In candlelit basements and old bunkers, rebel groups formed. Scientists, soldiers, and survivors met in secret, planning escape routes and sharing theories. Some believed the rain was not just a curse, but a warning. Others, a cleansing sent by higher powers. But all knew one thing: to stand in the open was to risk everything. A child, orphaned by the storm, sat beside the stone forms of her parents, hugging a teddy bear turned to rock. Her silent grief told the story of a million others. Above her, time-lapse footage captured the transformation of her city over 24 hours. Humanity erased, frame by frame, replaced with statuesque silence. Nature, too, had not been spared. A bird, caught mid-flight, hovered in the air as if paused by time itself. Rain still poured around it, but it would never fly again. Each drop carried the same ancient power. But amid the loss, one figure stood tall, a lone survivor. Cloaked in a weatherproof raincoat, stepped forward at the edge of the last safe zone. In front of them, a monstrous wall of storm clouds surged with electric fury, advancing like a living force. It was the final stand, the last moment of defiance. Were they immune or just lucky? The world watched, powerless. In the end, the final image came not from Earth but from space. Orbiting satellites broadcast a haunting scene. The planet, once vibrant and teeming with life, now veiled in a ghostly spiral of stone-bearing clouds. The storm system stretched across oceans and continents, wrapping Earth in a slow, suffocating embrace.